हेलो एंड वेलकम एवरीवन, दिस इज प्रोफेसर सिद्धार्थ सुराना। आई होप यू गाइस आर डूइंग गुड और मैं तो हमेशा मस्त रहता हूं। वेलकम टू एमसीक्यू सीजन 2 एपिसोड नंबर 2। We are going to cover some important chapters, some difficult questions in this class, including some provisions applicable to non-residents, which obviously is applicable for your international tax portion, both in your 30 marks for paper number 7 as well as your 100 marks for paper number 6. Last time we finished up to chapter number 2, double taxation avoidance agreement. So let's go ahead immediately without wasting any time. On page number 3 of the book, you will be getting the chapter number 3. Page number 11, sorry, you will get the chapter number 3, mode of acceptance and repayment of loans. And this chapter we know it by the name of, short name is cash loans. What do we call it? Cash loans. Let's see what do we have for us here. Question number 1. Suppose Mr. Naveen is an employee working in a public sector company, obviously. What will be the consequences of the following transaction for the assessment year 21-22? He repaid a loan in cash of 24,000, which he took from his friend. So this is not taken from a bank or a statutory corporation or any of those exceptional cases. Loan of 20,000 or more, outstanding before repayment is 20,000 or more, and it is taken from a friend, and the repayment is in a disallowed mode, and therefore what is the consequence? Disallowance? No, he is a salaried employee, so it is not going to be PGBP. Penalty under section 271E, which is going to be 100% of the amount repaid in contravention. So not just 19,000, 100% penalty is going to be applicable. 1B. Question number 2. Section 269 SS provides that no person shall take or accept any loan of rupees dash otherwise than by way of account pay check, account pay draft, or the allowed modes. What is that amount which will not be allowed if the amount is rupees 20,000 or more? Obviously, easy chapter, easy questions, but as I said, some of the upcoming questions of the upcoming chapters are really very difficult. Full-fledged sums. I have already solved the sums for you before starting the recording so that we use less time and you have the solution by way of screenshot. Question number 3. Miss Meenal took a loan of rupees 21,000 in cash from Jain Cooperative Bank. Penalty leviable will be, apparently your mind will tell you that 20,000 or more cash loan, so penalty, but observe carefully, loan is taken from bank and therefore in the absence of violation there will be no penalty. Provision of section 269 SS is not applicable on Mukesh. He is the owner of India, but the act cannot say a thing like this. Central government employee, no, if the government is involved then not applicable, but for employee it is applicable. Assessee having income below basic exemption limit, doesn't matter, still you have to comply with the modes, and notified institutions are immune from applicability. Provision of 269 SS is not applicable on a transaction done through, not applicable. If done through cash, it is applicable. Cross check, it is applicable. Bearer check, it is applicable because we have 3 allowable modes: account pay check, account pay draft, electronic mode. But in one of the case laws, it was held that bank transfer voucher, because the transaction is routed through a bank, purpose of the section is not defeated, and consequently bank transfer voucher is going to be allowed. Question number 6. AO has power to invoke what? Penalty for violation of 269 SS, that is cash loan penalty, concealment penalty, both of them or any one of them. As held, again it has to be anyone. Either he will accept my loan story or not accept my loan story. If he does not accept my loan story, then he can levy concealment penalty, and if he accepts my loan story, then he can levy loan penalty, but it is not concealed, so ultimately he can levy concealment penalty or loan penalty, any one of them. X made a fixed deposit of 12,000 with a non-banking finance company NBFC on 1/4/20 in cash. Thereafter, he made another fixed deposit of 7,500 with the same NBFC on 1st August by bearer check this time. And 31st March 21, he made yet another. So now with this 8,000, he is exceeding the limit of 20,000. Which of the following statement is correct? Penalty is attracted at the time of acceptance of first, that is 2000, first was 2020. Penalty is attracted at the time of acceptance of second deposit on, again, 1st August 2020. Third deposit at the time of, that was 31st March 21. The dates are for the new year. And obviously, if you observe carefully, it is a banking finance company, and thus the provision of 269 SS is not going to get attracted, and therefore there is going to be no penalty applicable in this, which is also the reason why in the wrong options the dates were not changed. Sardar Patel NBFC gave a loan for which total repayment 2,50,000, which is to be made in cash, each installment of 15,000. What will be the penalty? Once again, because it is NBFC involved, so once again there is not going to be any penalty in this case. No penalty because NBFC is involved. So that was our first chapter for the day, that is cash loans. Moving on without wasting any time, let's go ahead. There is some problem with my moving on without wasting any time. Next chapter, NRI taxation. As I already told you that chapters of international tax are also going to be covered because these are provisions of non-resident. So let's go. To become a resident, following condition need to be satisfied. Stay in India for 182 days or more during the previous year. Yes, that's your first condition. 365 days or more during 4 immediately preceding previous year. That's last 4 years. But that's the second condition and only one of the parts of the second condition. Stay in India for 60 days, and we know that as per an amendment where your income in India plus income from outside India but a business control from India, if that income exceeds rupees 50 lakh, then instead of 60 it will become 120, and thus in the second condition we have 60 days and last 4 years 365 days. So what is the condition? If you carefully observe, this is your division between condition 1 and actually this is condition 1 and this is condition 2. So you either do condition 1 or you do condition 2, but when you do condition 2 you have to do both parts, 60 days and 365 days, and accordingly the selection is going to be, it is going to be A or B and C. That is how you are going to become a, resident. Residential status of the assessee must be ascertained obviously every year because number of days can change every year, so it has to be ascertained every year. Ms. Rosemary Smith is a citizen of Canada. She came to India after 10 years on 5th June 2020. That means one thing is for sure, last 4 years 365 not fulfilled, last 7 years 730 is not fulfilled, any 2 out of last 10 years that is also not fulfilled. Maximum that we can check is what is her status for the current year. She came on 5th June and left on 3rd December. What is her status? See, even if she is a resident, one thing is for sure, she will be not ordinarily resident because she has come after 10 years. So last 7 years 730 or last 10 years any 2 years resident, that is not possible. It has to be RNY. We first will do one thing, we will decide whether resident or non-resident. If it is non-resident, then this will be our answer, topic will get closed, and if it is resident, then this will be our answer. So it has to be between B and C, but for that we have to check stay in the current year. June, July, August, September, October, November, December is her period of stay in India. December will be 3 days. Remember, the incoming day and outgoing day will be included. Now the rest of the months are full months, so very easy. November 30, October 31, September 30, July and August both have 31 days, and June is that month you have to be most careful about. Maximum care you have to take. She came on 5th June. And what here some people do is they take 25 days. They take 30 minus 5, which is disaster. You cannot take 25 days over here. You will have to take 26. Sir, how? Sir, because 5th also has to be included. So June 1, 2, 3, 4 excluded and 5 onwards included. So 30 minus 4, 26. And then accordingly, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 into 30 is 150. And then this month also 30. So 180, but you remove 4. 176. 179. Oh my. This amounts to an exact stay of 108. I did the oral calculation. You can take your calculator and add all of them. I am fast in oral mathematics, but you don't try these stunts in exam. Anyways, if it is a question, वो 5 plus 3 भी बोलेगा तो भी आप कैलकुलेटर पे एक बार कंफर्म करने ही वाले हो कि 5 plus 3 8 होता है कि 7 होता है, वो भी आप देखने वाले हो, हमको सबको मालूम है. तो ये बेटर रहेगा कि आप टोटल मार के देख लो. इस क्वेश्चन में द ओनली मिस्टेक पॉसिबल जो आप कर सकते थे, अगर आप जून में ना 5th को एक्सक्लूड करते 181 आता तो आपका आंसर सीधा नॉन रेसिडेंट हो जाता, क्योंकि 63 65 हो नहीं रहा है, लास्ट 4 इयर्स तो जीरो है. and then the other conditions also not fulfilled, but because it is exact 182, she is going to be a resident but not ordinarily resident. Resident but not ordinarily resident. I hope you guys are understanding what is happening. Mr. Rustam Pavri, an Indian citizen, left India on 27 June as a member of crew of Indian ship. Crew member के बारे में I hope you remember that the second condition of 63, 65, 123, 65 is not applicable. Only 182. He has been in India during this huge period. His salary is 6 lakh. Let us be clear about this. Salary is 6 lakh means his income is not exceeding that 15 lakh rupees which is required for that 120 condition to be applicable. What is his status? What is his status for the financial year 2021? What is going to be his status? Okay. He left when? 27th June, and I think thereafter he has not returned. So he was barely in India for April 30, May 31 and June 27. That makes the total of, what is it, 88 days? And therefore it is less than 182. Condition 2 is not applicable. We have got nothing to do with what has happened in the last 4 years. Mr. Rustam Pavri hereby becomes a non-resident. Thank you very much, Mr. Pavri. Go make your movie. You know Rustam, no? Mr. Abhishek stayed in territorial waters of India in ship for the month of April, June, July, October, November, December and March for the financial year 2021. He is, what is he going to be considered as? Resident, non-resident cannot be determined. Disaster. Territorial waters are also a part of Indian territory. Indian territorial waters up to 12 nautical miles is considered as stay in India. So we have to choose between resident and non-resident. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That 7 into 30 already makes it 210, plus we have some months of 31, 1, 2, 3, 4, 214 days, and therefore Mr. Abhishek becomes a resident. Thank you very much. Condition of ordinarily and not ordinarily should be checked. For, by the way, whatever we are doing right now is discussion which will be applicable for intermediate students also. So if at all you have any intermediate student in your touch, don't be selfish. Kindly communicate this to the intermediate students, a little about the tax rates of the introduction chapter, a little about the residential status here, and then after this, when we go to our heads of income part, all that will be very, very useful for CA intermediate students also. Okay. Condition for ordinarily and not ordinarily. See, for all assessees, we have resident, non-resident. Only in individual HUF, they are further divided into ROR or NOR. The other assessees have only one qualification or classification, ordinary or resident or non-resident. Only individual HUF have ordinary and not ordinary. Income that would be taxable in the hands of resident but not ordinarily resident. Resident world income is taxable, but you are not ordinarily. What is the only difference? What is the only difference, sir? Resident and ordinarily resident, everything is going to be taxable. Everything is going to be taxable. Even outside India, foreign income. But if you are RNOR, foreign income will be taxable only if the business is controlled from India. So see, Indian income is taxable for everyone, source principal, even if non-resident. If you are ROR, ordinarily resident, then foreign income is also taxable irrespective of this condition. But when you are RNOR, then your foreign income is taxable only if the business is controlled from India, and consequently, under both A and B, your income is going to be taxable. See, let's be clear about all the three. Non-resident, only Indian income. If this question assessee was non-resident, then our answer will be this. If this question assessee was ROR, then we don't have to check everything is taxable, ROR. But only in case of RNOR, it is going to be Indian income plus foreign income only if it is controlled from India, otherwise not taxable, and thus both B and C. One of the conditions to be satisfied for being ROR is what? There are two conditions. Last 7 years, 730 days, and any 2 out of last 10 years you have to be resident. They are asking one of the conditions. So last 7 years is common in all the options. You just have to search for 730 days. Mr. Suresh, a non-resident, received commission of 80 lakhs from Indian company. This 80 lakh is remitted by him to his sister Sushma, who is a resident, in whose hand it is going to be taxable. In whose hands it is going to be taxable? See, assessee is non-resident. Whenever non-resident is earning commission income from a resident, it will be taxable by applying source principle. Only exception is that if this Indian company has used the services of this non-resident outside India, then it will become a foreign income. It is possible. Indian company has foreign business and he has performed work over there. So not residence applicable and not even source, and therefore not taxable. But when the question is silent about where the income has accrued, only if it is specifically mentioned कि ये income foreign का है, तो ही आप इसको मानोगे कि ये foreign का. When it is not mentioned, then you have to assume it is Indian income. So even if the assessee is non-resident, then principle of source will be applicable, and consequently the income will be taxable in the hands of Suresh. Then after earning money, you give it to your sister, father, mother, you surrender it at the feet of your wife. What you do does not make any difference. This income is going to be taxable for Suresh. Provision of NRI taxation. This chapter, NRI, chapter 12A. Yes or no? They are optional. So can assessee go to normal rates? Yes, if the normal rates are beneficial, you can. The beneficial provisions of this chapter, assessee should be individual, citizen or PIO, any one of them, and non-resident. These are the three conditions to become the specific assessee. Consequently, all of them. Question number 12. Forex asset includes, what is the definition if we can recollect? Shares of an Indian company, debenture, deposit, public company, central government securities, any other notified. Shares of private company. See, Indian company, whether public, private, listed, unlisted, everything covered. So A is covered. Securities by state government, not covered. And therefore both cannot be the answer. And none is also not the answer, because shares are covered. Therefore this is your answer. Supposingly I change this state government and make it central government, then both will become your answer. I hope you are understanding what. Supposingly I make this and I write shares of foreign company, then none will become our answer. You have to be careful about what are the options. In the current case, shares are the only asset covered, and therefore A is the only correct answer. An NRI opting for 10% on LTCG shall lose the benefit of. Obviously, you don't get basic exemption. You don't get chapter 6(8) special rate. But transfer expense you will get, because if we don't give transfer expense, then it will amount to taxing the gross income. So we will get transfer expense, but we will lose the benefit of indexation. So answer is 1, 2 and 4, and the correct option which is giving us 1, 2 and 4 is our, I think, option B. Tax rate for investment income will be dash and LTCG will be dash. What are the rates? Investment income 20% and long term capital gain 10%. Obviously, we know this is subject to the rates of surcharge if applicable. HEC is always applicable. NRI opting for 20% tax on investment income under section 115E shall lose the benefit of. For investment income, you won't get basic exemption, you won't get chapter 6A, and investment income you will not get expense also. So LTCG you will lose indexation, investment income you will lose expenses, and accordingly answer will be in. To get full exemption under section 115F, you should invest in another forex asset within how much time? Acquire another forex asset within a period of 6 months from the transfer. To get full exemption under section 115F, what should you invest? GSC, NSC, capital gain, or cost of acquisition of old asset? See, in charitable trust, it is cost of old asset. In capital gain 54 series, they say invest the capital gain amount. But here, the requirement is to invest your net sale consideration. Assessee is not required to file ROI even if income exceeds basic exemption limit. What are the 4 cases? 1 is NRI and 3 in special rates of tax chapter. And what are the conditions? No other taxable income and TDS has been fully deducted. No other taxable income, TDS is fully deducted. When both are correct, that means the correct option that you have to choose is option C. Assessee can opt for NRI provisions even after becoming resident till the time he holds the forex asset. Once you were non-resident at the time of acquisition, even if you subsequently become resident, you are still going to get the option till the time you are holding the option and the asset, and therefore the option is 2. Assessee can opt for NRI even in the new taxation regime 115 BAC. Absolutely no. So now let us be clear about one thing. This is chapter 12 special rates and NRI is chapter 12A. And where the new taxation regime commences, the section starts by saying notwithstanding anything contained anywhere in income tax. So all other chapters of income tax cancel. If you enter this, everything else cancel. That means NRI also cancel and therefore not available. However, let me continue because next chapter it will help. notwithstanding anything contained anywhere in income tax. So NRI cancel, but subject to the provisions of this chapter. That means if there is any income which is taxable under chapter 12, whether 111 is short term capital gain, 112 is long term capital gain, casual winnings, those rates will apply even in the new regime. So anything which is given in chapter 12 with special rates will apply in new taxation regime, but NRI is given in chapter 12A and therefore it will not be applicable in the new taxation regime, and consequently the option will be false. You cannot opt. Chapter 12A is applicable for whom? Only for individual. Chapter 12A is applicable, as we are aware, only for individual. Chapter 12A is applicable for what? All incomes? No. Investment income from forex asset? Yes. LTCG from forex asset? Yes. And therefore our answer comes to both B and C. That was our chapter NRI taxation. Let's go ahead. Next chapter is special rates of tax. Lot of questions added, some complicated questions, especially from the November 2020 RTP, which was the last RTP released just before this book was drafted. May 21 RTP is recently released and we will be doing a lecture on those MCQs also. Let us do it one thing at a time, so it is going to be convenient and comfortable for all of us. Let's go ahead. Special rate of tax chapter 12, also relevant once again because there are non-resident provisions, also relevant for paper 6. Question 1. Which of the following is a taxable income? Unexplained cash credit, unexplained investment, unexplained money, or all of the above? We know that all, in fact, at a flat rate 115 BBE of 60%, compulsory surcharge of 25% and HSC of 4%, taking the effective tax rate to directly at a massive rate of 78%. An amount of 45,000 was credited in the books of Mr. Ali, for which Mr. Ali did not provide any explanation to the satisfaction of the assessing officer. Therefore, rupees 45,000 was considered as income by AO. And what will be the rate of? They are asking only basic tax without surcharge and HEC. When you have unexplained income, the rate of basic tax applicable will be 60%. Surcharge leviable on unexplained money, just now discussed, compulsory surcharge of 25%. Mr. Nitin, a non-resident, sold his house property situated in Kolkata to Mr. Raj, again a non-resident, and capital gain from this transaction is 40 lakh 50. Non-resident to non-resident, some are like, wow sir, no taxable income. Open your eyes. Once the asset is located in India, that means the income has arisen in India, and once the source principle is attracted. See, globally there are two principles of levy of tax: residence and source. Residence is not applicable, but source is applicable. So 40 lakh 50 will be taxable even if the payee, even if the payer payee both are non-resident. Remember, NR to NR not taxable, but if the source is in India, then it will be taxable. Mr. Nitin also provided technical services to Manish Limited, an Indian company. So in one of the questions of NRI, the service was provided to Indian company. Location was not given, so we had to assume India and include that. But here they are saying that it will be utilized for the purpose of its business in Singapore, and because it will be utilized for the purpose of business in Singapore, that means Indian connection is not established, and therefore for this income there is no residence and no source, and accordingly what will be the taxable income? Options are very straightforward. If you include none of them citing that he is a non-resident, then you will get D as the answer. Wrong, because 40-50 has to be included. If 40-50 has to be included, then this is also wrong, and now we only have to decide whether 10 lakh will come or no. If 10 lakh will come, then A will become our answer, otherwise B, as I said, 40-50 will always come. If the question was silent about where the company will utilize the income, like in one of the earlier questions, then we would have selected 50-50, included 10 lakh also. But where the question is clarifying that the facility will be used in Singapore, then the answer will be 40 lakh 50,000. The answer will be 40 lakh 50,000. Mr. Mihir Darji, one of my past students, a non-resident once again. So we have to check for source principle. Received dividend of 280 from Indian company. Dividend from Indian company, source is in India, and now it is taxable. Hello. Till last year. Now this is the change between last book and this book. Question may be same, amount may be same, but this 280 was not included in the taxable income last year because it was company has paid DDT, shareholder exempt, resident, non-resident doesn't matter. But now it is going to be taxable because there will be no DDT. Indian company dividend, everything, everybody will pay tax, and foreign company dividend, only resident will pay tax, obviously, because Non-resident does not have source. Commission of 3 lakh from ABC Indian LLP. Now this time place is not given. And if place is not given, then we have to assume that it was taken in India. So that will also be included. And salary received in Malaysia 9 lakh. But the services were done in India. So once again, the income has arisen in India. And accordingly, see now the options are a combination of the 3 amounts. But as decided, 9 will be included because service was in India. 3 will be included because place is not given. Therefore, we have to assume India, and 280. See, so last year the answer was actually 9 plus 3, 12 lakh rupees. But now we have to include 280 also, and accordingly answer is going to be 14 lakh 80. Miss Preksha Surana, that's my sister actually, has earned rupees 5 lakh in the form of royalty income from patent developed and registered in India, and she incurred an expense of 2 lakh 60. She exercised the option of paying as per 115 BBF. That means, see, we know that 115 BBF is the only optional section out here, and therefore she will be paying. She has exercised the option, so she will be paying at 10%. But then the mistake which is possible is, if you do 5 lakh minus 260 and you apply 10% on 240, then you will get this answer, which is wrong, because you will not get deduction of expense once you go in special rate. Accordingly, your tax will be 5 lakh into 10%, 52,000 plus 4%, 50,000 plus 4% HEC. That will give you your liability of 52. Income by way of LTCG arising from transfer of global depository receipts will be taxable. GDR, ADR, GDR section, we all know that revenue income and capital gain both are going to be taxable at 10%. 115 BBF provides that total income of eligible assessee includes any income by way of royalty in respect of patent developed and registered in India, then it will be taxable. Right now we have calculated the tax also, 10%. Who is not required to pay securities transaction tax or commodities transaction tax? Company, individual, government company, they are all required to pay. Unit in IFSC, and in fact without STT also they will get benefit of 111A, 112A. Their MAT rate is going to be 9%. We know about all the benefits available for unit operating in IFSC. What are the benefits available to unit located in IFSC? Short-term capital gain 15% even if it is not paid. Long-term capital gain up to 1 lakh exempt even if STT is not paid. Under 112A, excess over 1 lakh will be taxable at 10%. Rate of MAT will be 9% instead of 15%. That means all of the above. Section 115 BBG, last section of special rates, 10% tax on transfer of carbon credits. ABC Limited, an Indian company, holds 27% in D Limited, which is a foreign company. Whenever an Indian company holds 26% or more in foreign company, then the dividend income under 115 BBD will be taxable at a concessional rate of 15%. ABC Limited received, now open your eyes and see, received a dividend of 49. That means my 27% share is this 49. अभी कोई कोई लोग इतना बड़ा गधा पागल इडियट होता है, वो ये 49 के ऊपर 20% लगा के बोलता है सर दिस इज माय मनी. गधा for north and Potton for south. After applying 27% on the total dividend, this is my share. This is what I have received. So you don't have to now further apply 27. This is already my share. And expenses of 10,000. What will be the dividend income taxable? So the mistake possible is, if you apply 27%, you will get these weird answers. The options are 49 or 39 because we have already applied 27. This is our received amount. This is 27. So taxable at special rate, and special rate means no deduction of expense. Let me be clear. Had it been 25, that means normal rate of tax will apply. Because special rate of 115 BBD is available only if you are holding 26% or more. If it goes to normal rate, then you get deduction of expense and this will be your. See, all I am saying is, if this acquisition percentage was 25, that is less than 26, then 39 will be our answer because we will get deduction of expense because it is normal rate. Here it is special rate, no deduction of expense. Dividend received by Indian company from specified foreign company as per 115 BBD is taxed at 15%. What is a specified foreign company? In which Indian company holds, right now discussed, 26% or more. 115 BBD, that is concessional rate of 15% for dividend received from specified foreign company, is applicable to whom? It is applicable only to Indian company. Mr. Akhilesh, a non-resident Indian citizen. Open your eyes. He is a non-resident but Indian citizen. It will affect our answer. Let's see how. Is an enthusiastic sports person and is keen on contributing article on game of hockey in a leading newspaper in India. He approaches you to inquire on the taxability of such income for AY 21-22. As per provisions of Income Tax Act, such income will be taxable at. Your mind, body, heart, soul may be saying, sir, non-resident, foreign national, sportsman, sports association, entertainer, sir, 2020, you disaster, you durantam. Open your eyes and see the provision of 115 BBA of 20% is available for non-resident foreign national. Non-resident foreign national. Non-resident foreign national, he is an Indian citizen. And once you are Indian citizen, then special rate will not apply. And if special rate will not apply, then obviously normal rate of tax is going to be applicable. I hope you have understood. And that is also only for sportsmen, sports association and entertainer. Other people like umpire, coach, referee, they are not going to be covered. They will anyways go in normal slab rate. Okay. Question number 16. Mr. Sam, age 40 years, US football match referee, has earned income from football tournaments in India. What is the TDS provision? Once again, will we apply 20%? No, right now discussed. 20 is applicable only for sports person, not for umpire, coach, referee. And for him, it will be normal rate, and normal rate, that means TDS will be deducted as per section 195. That was also the Calcutta High Court judgment in the case of an assessee called Indcom. Delta Limited, a domestic company, declared interim dividend of 85 lakh for the financial year 2021 and distributed the same on 27 June 20. Mr. Ganesh holding 15% shares received 12.75. So if you apply, 85 lakh is the total distribution. If I am holding 15%, I'll get 15% of 85. That is Mr. Ganesh, 12.75 in June. And Rajesh is holding 10%. So obviously 10% of 85 will be 8.5. So based on their holding proportion, 15 and 10 respectively, they are getting 12.75 and 8.5 respectively of 85. Which of the following statement is correct? DDT is attracted in the hands of Delta Limited. To hell with it. I don't want to read the line. Once this line I have read and I know that this point is wrong, then don't waste your time. DDT is attracted. Once again wrong. DDT is not payable. Now this is the amendment. There is no DDT now. And also dividend received by Rajesh and Ganesh is not taxable. So this is also wrong. Because now due to removal of DDT, every rupee of dividend is going to be taxable. Dividend distribution is not payable. DDT is not payable by Delta. And dividend received by Rajesh and Ganesh will be taxable in their hands. Excellent. Miss Geeta, born in USA, comes to India for the first time on 5th January 21 and left India on 28th of May 21. She was born and brought up in USA, but her grandparents were born in Karachi before the year 1940. So she is person of Indian origin. So she is non-resident, but person of Indian origin. In December 2017, she bought in foreign currency 500 global depository receipts of PQR Limited, an Indian company, which were issued in accordance with notified scheme of central government against initial issue of shares of PQR Limited. In Jan 21, she sold 300 GDR outside India to Mr. Frank, a citizen and resident of country X. That means in India, he is a non-resident. 300 sold to Frank and 200 to Mr. Kamal, a resident but not ordinarily resident in India. Okay. Comment on the tax consequences of sale of such transaction. Options are: capital gain on all 500 will be subjected to tax. Capital gain will not be taxed on all 500. No capital gain on 300, but there will be tax on 200 at 10% without indexation benefit. No capital gain on 300, but there will be capital gain on 200 at 20% without the benefit of indexation. Let us understand, first of all, if you observe her period of stay in India, she is a non-resident. She is not, and by the way, you don't have to check till 28 May. You have to check the period only from 5th January 21 to 31st March 21. I hope you understand that the financial year is getting over on 31st March. So after that, April, May are included in next year. Current year, her stay in India is what? February 28 days, March about 31 days. That will make it about 59, and few days of January. It is crossing 60 days. But last 4 years, she was not in India. She came only for the first time in 2021. So 182 is not satisfied. 63, 65 is not satisfied. Let's first of all be clear that she is a non-resident. And for non-resident, income is taxable only on principle of source if the source is in India. What she has sold to Mr. Frank, the income source is not in India, but what she has sold to Mr. Kamal, that is going to be taxable in India, and consequently sale of 300 not taxable, but sale of 200 will be taxable, and tax on GDR we know is 10% without the benefit of indexation. And in the above question, if all of them are sold in India, that means can I say now source principle is applicable? And now if source principle is applicable to all 500, then in that case all the 500 will be subjected to 10% tax without the benefit of indexation. So being a non-resident, you had to see the source principle. In the second case, the source is in India. Under section 115A, chapter 6, a deduction will be available again. See, normally special rates we don't get deduction, but we have two exceptions. Exception 1, 80 LA will be given to IFSC 10 consecutive years out of first 15 years, 100% deduction of profits. And second, in 115A, only two incomes, royalty and FTS, only two, we get chapter 6A. So interest we will not get, but royalty and FTS we will get, and accordingly our answer is going to be D. Tax rate for FIIs on short-term capital gain under section 115AD is, if STT is paid, it will fall in 111A, 3 assets 111A, 15%, and anything which is not covered, so it is preference shares or debentures or anything, or STT not paid, then it will come in 30, so 15 and 30 both depending upon payment of STT. Casual winning is taxable at 30% for which assessee? Which assessee? All assessees. Condition for assessee covered in 115BB for being exempt from filing ROI despite having income exceeding the basic exemption limit. No other income, TDS has been fully deducted, and therefore you are getting the answer as both A and B, that is option C. I'll do one thing, send me your address, comment your address on this video, on the comment section, write your address. I will order one stool and one rope, rassi, stool and rope for you, online order, cash on delivery, cash on delivery. Kill yourself. 115A, main section of non-resident, dividend, interest, royalty, FTS, everything. 115AC, income from bonds, income from EDR, GDR. 115BBA, non-resident foreign national sportsman, sports association, entertainer. And 115G, NRI taxation. Facilities available only in these four cases. Casual winnings facility not available. Section 115BBA is applicable to non-resident sportsman, yes. Association, yes. Entertainer, yes. But umpire, no. And therefore 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Condition for assessee covered under section 115BBA for being exempt from BBA is covered. I just told you BBA is covered. No other taxable income and TDS fully. In fact, in all the four sections, no other taxable income and TDS has been fully deducted. Assessee under which section are exempt from filing of ROI despite having income exceeding the basic exemption limit. 115G, BBA, can I say all of them? Once option under section 115 BBF is opted, it has to be continued for minimum. Once opted, take for minimum 5 years. And therefore, you must be getting probably the answer as A. But do you remember, within those 5 years, we can leave. We can stop. But with the condition that once we leave, then again for the next 5 years, we will not get the option. And thus, remember in MCQ, remember, you must be thinking, sir, there can be only one correct answer. But the truth is, and read any of the MCQ questions which institute is asking in exam, in mock test, the question is choose the most appropriate. You may get 5 as an appropriate answer, but in the options, when you have this, not compulsory, but you will lose, then this is more appropriate. And the MCQ question says select the most appropriate of all. And thus, yes, we can leave in the 5 years, but we will not get the option for the next 5 years. And thus the correct answer is going to be your option D. Knowledge based industry and service under 115 ACA. Do you remember? Information technology, software, service, biotechnology, pharmaceutical, entertainment, any other notified. So, chartered accountant? No. Civil engineer. Engineer. Engineering is not education. We all know and civil engineer are carpenters. But entertainment industry is covered. Alright. Jokes apart. Question number 28. Some difficult things are going to now be coming. And There have been students who were already doing these MCQs who purchased the book far before we started this. So actually I was waiting for you to finish revision lectures, watching of revision lectures, and also people should have the study material in their hand when they start watching these lectures. So some students already started solving sums on their own, and they have sent me pictures of these questions. Sir, how to solve? Sir, the time has come to give. I have already given them the answer, but giving you an answer is based on a simple condition. You solve the sum, send me your solution. I will tell you what mistake you have made because you are not getting the correct answer. You cannot expect me to solve. And if you want me to solve, then here I am solving the sum. For you, Nadal, a tennis professional. So we can see he is a sportsman and a non-Indian citizen and a hello. Humble apologies for the interruption. We were doing question number 29. Observe carefully, please. Nadal, a tennis professional. So he is a sportsman and not a citizen, participated in India in a tennis tournament and won prize of 15 lakhs. So income from matches 15 lakh. Contributed articles on the tournament in a local newspaper, and for articles he was paid 1 lakh. He was also paid 5 lakh by a soft drink company for appearance in a TV advertisement. Although his expenses in India were met by sponsors, he had to incur 3 lakh towards his travel costs. So his out of pocket expenses are 3 lakh. He was a resident for tax purposes in India. What would be his tax liability? Some people are wondering, oh, sir, this is our classroom book sum. Sir, we already remember the answer, 436,800. Option A, you are gone. Disaster. Durantam in south. Gadeda in north. He was a resident. And if he was a resident, then the provision of 115 BBA, 20% will not be applicable for special rate. Non-resident, foreign national. Non-resident, foreign national. Non-resident, foreign national. He is a foreign national, but he was a resident. Consequently, normal rate. And once you apply normal rate, mistake number 1. We know that in special rates of tax, we don't get deduction of expense. But if the special rate is applicable, if it is not applicable and you are going to normal rate, which is question 29, then you will get deduction of expense. So if you calculate tax on 15 and 1 16 and 5 21 lakhs, then you are wrong because tax will be applicable on 18 lakhs. So what are your possible mistakes? 1, if you apply special rate, then it is wrong. You will get this answer. If you apply normal rates and you calculate tax on 21 lakh, you will get one of these options, which is also wrong. You have to calculate tax on 18 lakhs. 18 lakhs normal rates. 18 lakhs normal rates. One student got wrong in that also because what the student did not realize. Question number 29. Nadal, a resident. These are the incomes. 15, 1 and 5, 21. Expenses will be allowed as he is going to go in normal rates, and therefore, first mistake, income will be taxable 18 lakh, not 21. Second, this will be going in normal rate. Second mistake. So one of the wrong options. Third, the assessee has not claimed any of the 20 tax benefits, and when the question is silent about that, the new taxation regime is going to be beneficial, and therefore the tax which is calculated will be up to 15 lakh fixed tax 187,500 in the new regime, and the remaining 3 lakh will be taxable at 30%. Basic tax 277,500 plus 4% 288,600. This is your answer because the tax is calculated as per new regime. Have we understood? So if you go to special rate, this will be the answer. You will be wrong. If you calculate tax on 21 lakh, you will get one of the other two answers. The wrong answers have been closely chosen. Let's go to question number 30. Nadal, a tennis professional, non-Indian citizen, participated in India in a tennis tournament, won prize money of 15 lakh, same data. Contributed articles for which he was paid 1 lakh, same data. Paid 5 lakh by soft drink company for advertisement, same data. Expenses met by sponsors but traveling expense 3 lakh, again same data. He was this time a non-resident. So non-resident, foreign national. Non-resident, foreign national. And now the incomes will be taxable at special rate. And once you apply special rate, now what is the mistake? Now if you apply special rate on 18 lakh, it will be wrong. So 288,600 is not the right answer because that was if he was resident. Now if we apply special rate on 18, it will be wrong. This time the correct answer will be no deduction of expense, 115 BBA will be available. 21 lakh will be taxed at 20% directly. 4 lakh 20 plus 4%. This is our classroom sum. 436,800. I hope you now understand. Smith, a non-resident cricketer. So this time non-resident as a member of Australian touring team. Non-resident foreign national. Both conditions satisfied. Received a sum of 5 lakh rupees for participation in matches. So now it is special rate 20%. 1 lakh for advertisement. Ads are also covered in 115 BBA. 10,000 for contribution of articles. So 6 lakh 10,000. And during the tour of India, he attended horse racing in Mumbai, one price of 20,000 rupees. No other income. No other income. So will we apply 20% on the total? This horse racing money will go in 30. So 6 lakh 10,000 will go in. This is your question number 31. Matches 5 lakh. Advertisement 1 lakh and articles 10,000. This 6 lakh 10,000 will be taxable at 20%. However, the income of 20,000 from horse races will be taxed at 30%. This is a classroom sum. 128 plus 4%, 133, 120. So if you apply 20% on entire 630, that will be one of your options. If you apply slabs, that will be one of your options. The options are very, very carefully chosen. In the above question, if TDS is fully deducted, this question, if TDS is fully deducted, then does he have to file return? Supposingly he does not have any other income, no? No other income, TDS fully deducted. No other income, TDS deducted. Once you have casual winning, then return filing is going to be compulsory. Does he have to file return? If you choose not required, you will be wrong. Yes, because he has casual winnings. Be careful about one more thing. Just having casual winnings will not make return filing compulsory. You also have to be covered under the provision of 139(1). और 139(1) जो section है उसमें list दिया है. Every company, every firm, including LLP, if you are other person, then your gross total income before exemptions of 54 series exceeds the basic exemption limit. ROR having asset outside India. Foreign travel more than 2 lakh, electricity more than 1 lakh, current account deposit more than 1 lakh. Subject to those rules. So this will make you file return. And this will also make you file return, and thus the correct answer is D. Here in the printed answer there is a mistake, you need to correct. In the printed answer B has been selected. Actually it is the right answer, but C is also the right answer, and therefore the correct option will be option D. B is right, C is also right, so the option to be chosen is option D. In the printed answer B is given, in the textbook B is given as the answer. Cancel B. The correct answer to this question is going to be D. Cancel, make this correction please in the printed box, answer box below the chapter. In the above question, if he was an umpire, then special rate of 115 BBA not applicable. Slab, but wait, even in slab, the horse races will go in 30%. So what will be your answer? If he is an umpire, then in that case, 20,000 will still be taxable at this rate, and 6 lakh 10,000 will be taxable as per slab rate, because that 20 will not be available. We will apply new slabs again because no benefit taken. So up to 5 lakh 12,500, and on 1 lakh 10,000 we will calculate 10%. So that's 11,000. 23,500, basic tax 29,500 plus HEC 30,680 is going to be your answer. Remember, casual winnings will go in special rate, but the other income will go in normal rate. Interest income earned by non-resident during 2021 on bonds issued by ABC Limited, an Indian company, under a notified. So notified bonds, then in that case we know 115 AC 10% tax will be applicable. A foreign institutional investor has total income which includes a short-term capital gain on sale of preference shares 50 lakh. Then what is the tax rate? Preference shares. Preference shares, that means whether you pay STT or you don't pay STT. 111 is not applicable. And do we remember 115 AD section of FII? Long term and short term both. There was the only section where there is special rate for short term. If covered by 111A, then 15. But if not covered by 111A, then in that case 30. Rate of deduction of tax from interest payable to a foreign company located in a country with which India does not have DTAA by an Indian company on borrowing made by way of rupee denominated bonds issued on 31st March 19. Now this is a very, very forgotten provision. I don't know whether how many students remember. Go watch the videos of some YouTube heroes. Some professors also don't remember the date. So very difficult for students to remember, because some professors also don't remember the date. Any bond issued during this period, a brief period of exemption was given, and thus any bond issued during this period, the interest will be exempt. And if the interest is exempt, then the TDS will be 0. Remember the dates because the issue date is this. If the bond is issued on 1/4/20, then it will be taxable and accordingly TDS is going to be deducted. But remember this period, difficult to remember, but you cannot ignore because it is applicable to non-resident, important provision. X in it. Interest income earned by Mr. George, a non-resident citizen of Australia during previous year 2021 on bonds issued by MNO Limited, an Indian company under a scheme notified. So once again, notified bonds taxable at 10%. P Limited is a domestic company which filed return of income for EY 21-22 declaring a total income of 1 crore 15 lakh. The assessment in its case was opened by the assessing officer by issuing notice under section 143(2). The assessing officer doubted the genuineness of loans taken by the company and added an amount of 5 lakh on the total income as 68, that is unexplained cash credit. What will be the effective rate at which that income will be taxable? What rate? Whenever you have unexplained cash credit, unexplained investment, unexplained money, unexplained expenditure, basic was 60 in one of the questions. But do we remember compulsory surcharge of 25% and compulsory HEC of 4%? Now, like an idiot, don't say 89, sir, because 25 is applicable on 60 and 4 is applicable on the total of these two. Accordingly, 78. We, in fact, all of us remember the date also, the rate of 78 also. A non-resident is earning interest income from municipal debt securities. The rate of tax will be, now this is an amendment with effect from EY 21-22. We have got basic 20% interest income tax rate under 115A, but there are certain exceptions given where they will go in 5%. In fact, we also have an amendment where there is 4%. Municipal debt securities is an amendment and it will be taxable at 5%. Non-resident earning interest from repeat denominated bonds on IFSC issued on 1/4/20. This is that amendment which will go in 4%. So on IFSC from issued from 1st September 19 it was exempt. But now that amendment will apply if the issue has taken place till 31st March 20. If the issue happens on 1/4/20 or subsequently up to July 23, then the rate that will be applicable is going to become 4%. The rate applicable is going to become 4%, which is also an amendment. Chapter 12 will be applicable even in new taxation regime. Yes, because 115 BAC itself is a part of chapter 12. And what does 115 BAC says? Ignore everything else in income tax, but give respect to chapter 12. And therefore, chapter 12, so your casual winnings, your long-term capital gain, all those rates will apply even in the new taxation regime. Question number 42 from November 20 article. X and company, Y and company are non-resident partnership firms in receipt of fees for technical services of 20 lakh each. So both of them have received in India how much? 20 lakh in the previous year 2021 from an Indian company, A Limited, in pursuance of an agreement with A Limited approved by central government. So A Limited is paying FTS to X and Y. X and Y. Can I say A is paying fees for technical services both to X and Y. Both are firms. Fees for technical services is being paid to both X and Y, and both of them are getting 20 lakh rupees. A is paying 20 lakh each to X and Y. X and company does not have any permanent establishment in India, does not have any fixed place of profession in India, whereas Y has got a fixed place of business and the contract is effectively connected with such P. So, what is the difference between, till now everything was same. A is paying FTS 20 lakh to both X and Y, both are foreign firms. Now comes the difference. X does not have P, Y has permanent establishment in India. Revenue expenditure incurred by X and company is directly given. So for X, they have given you expenses directly, 2 lakh. So payment is 20 lakh, expenses 2 lakh. But for Y and company, because they have permanent establishment, lot of details are given. Revenue expenditure, 350. Expenditure wholly and exclusively with that fixed place of profession is 3, which is included in above. So basically, I can say that directly connected with the PE is this, and other expenses therefore remains only 50,000 rupees. Total is 350, in which wholly and exclusively connected, which is included in above, is 3 lakh, and therefore unconnected to PE expenses, unrelated revenue expense, general admin expense, 50,000. Amount paid by the fixed place of profession to head office. So head office expenses given 1 lakh, which is not included. So effectively, use your brain and understand. This 3 lakh is included in 350. So 350 can be divided into two parts, 3 lakh and 50,000. But this 1 lakh is not included. That means you can effectively say the total expense of the PE is actually 4.5, in which 1 is paid to head office, that's this 1 lakh which is not included. 3 lakh is direct expense of PE, direct expense, wholly and exclusively connected with PE, and that 50,000 is unrelated expense, unrelated revenue expense. Fair enough. Books of accounts are maintained and audit is done. Okay. What is the tax liability of X and company and Y and company for previous year 2021 for fees for technical services? Fees for technical services for non-resident. Let us try to recollect the provision covered in 115A. Rate of tax for both royalty and FTS was 10%, and once you apply special rate, no deduction of expense, no deduction of expense. But we also had the option of 44DA. 44DA. But that 44DA option is available when you satisfy 3 conditions. PE in India, books of accounts and audit. When is 44DA available? We did this in class in writing. PE, books of accounts, audit. PE, books of accounts, audit. Which is not fulfilled by X, only fulfilled by Y. That means for X, there is only one option, 115A, 10%. 115A, 10%. For Y, 44DA is available. But for X, 115A, 10%. And that means, can I say for X, our tax calculation is over? 10%. The only mistake is if you give deduction of expense, you already know in special rate, no deduction of expense. So what is going to be the tax of X? 20 lakh into 10% plus HEC. So that's 2 lakh plus 4%. 2 lakh 8,000 is going to be the tax of X. 2 lakh 8,000 will be your tax of X. To be very honest, if you use little common sense and little brain, no, you have already selected C as your option. Even if you now don't sit and calculate for your other assessee. Why? Because 2 lakh 8 is only in one of the options. So automatically that becomes our option. But sir, sometimes it is possible that 208 is given in more than one case. Then we have to also calculate for Y. So we cannot leave this question like this. We are not doing MCQ only to solve this. Anything that comes in exam, you should be able to solve. So how to do it for Y? Don't worry, I have solved the full sum with you. For X and company, have we understood? X and company, no PE, therefore 115A, because for 44DA, PE, books of accounts, audit, which only Y is doing. Fees for technical services 20 lakh, no deduction of expense because it is falling in the special rate, 20 lakh into 10% plus 4%, 208, which we have already calculated. Now let's talk about Y. Y will go in 44DA because it has PE, books of accounts, audit. So it will get deduction of expense. What is the difference between 115A and 44DA? In 44DA, you get deduction of expense. And now I am doing a little explanation of the provision of 44DA. When we get deduction of expense in 44DA, the rule is you get only 2 deductions. So, Y and company has PE, maintaining books of accounts and getting it audit. Therefore, 44DA, therefore deduction of expense. But in the section 44DA, where they give us the deduction of expense, they give us with a rule that only if it is wholly and exclusively for PE. So any expense which is wholly and exclusively incurred for the PE, that is going to be allowed. Or if you reimburse to the head office for actual expense of PE, sometimes it is possible that there is an expense which is wholly incurred by the PE, but payment was made by head office, centralized payment system. So this PE will reimburse that actual expense. So that also becomes wholly and exclusively. So main condition is expense should be, main condition तो यही है कि आपका expense wholly and exclusively PE से related होना चाहिए. आपने खुद ने पे किया या head office is paying, you are reimbursing. ये दो केस में आपको डिडक्शन मिलेगा. तो देखते हैं. Wholly and exclusively incur हो रहा है 3 lakh rupees. That is going to be allowed. That other 50,000 is general revenue expenditure, that will not be allowed. So only this 3. And the amount that you have paid to head office, this is otherwise than towards actual expense. अगर ये actual expense होगा, if it is actual expense, then you will get deduction. But it is otherwise, then you will not get deduction of this. Accordingly, the only deduction that you will get is your 20 lakh income minus only 3 lakh. 50,000 not allowed because it is not wholly for the PE, and 1 lakh not allowed because it is not actual expense. I'll tell you again. If head office is incurring actual expense of the PE and we are reimbursing our actual expense, then that will be allowed. But general reimbursements will not be allowed. So only 3 lakh, and that will give us taxable income of 17 lakh. Last thing that you should note here, that this is a firm. We learned 44 AD 40% tax rate on the assumption that foreign company is going to be involved. But this being a partnership firm, you cannot apply the tax rate of company. Thus, the tax rate applicable is going to be, this is something that you have to be careful about. If it is company, then only that 40% rate will apply. If it is a firm, then in that case, it is going to be 30%, which is the tax rate for partnership firm, and you add 4% HEC. Accordingly, you will get your 530, 400. So, in deduction of expense, only wholly and exclusively for the PE, or head office expenses reimbursed by the PE if it is related to the PE actual expense. That will be deduction, and if it is partnership firm, then apply rate of partnership firm. You cannot apply the rate of company. Next, M Limited and N Limited are Indian companies which have to pay interest of 2 lakh and 1 lakh outside India to Mr. P, a non-resident, during 2021 on rupee denominated bonds issued in January 19 and April 19 respectively. So, the bonds were issued by M in Jan 19, but by N in April. Which of the following statements are correct? Now, do you remember this date? So, M Limited has issued in this period. Therefore, the interest paid by M Limited will be exempt, but N has issued after this, so that will be taxable. Correct or no? Both have to deduct TDS? Wrong. Both do not have to deduct? That is also wrong, because we have understood the interest by M Limited will be taxable. Sorry, M Limited will be exempt because in that exemption period. So, no TDS by M, but N was in April. So, yes, TDS. So, M does not have to deduct TDS, but N has to, because rupee denominated bonds after April issued, then they will be taxable. 5% plus HEC, 43 will be C. Mr. Mahesh is found to be the owner of 2 gold chains of 50 grams each, market value of which is 145 each. Therefore, you have brains to understand that the total becomes 2 lakh 90 per chain, it is 145. And during the financial year 2021, but he could offer satisfactory explanation for only 50. So, out of 290, he has explanation only of 50. Then what will be his tax liability? The tax of 115BB is 78% on the unexplained amount. So, from 290, he has explanation of 50, and therefore, the amount that will be remaining will be 2 lakh 40,000. On 2 lakh 40,000, when you will apply your rate, now apply that rate. 2 lakh 40,000 into 78% is giving you what? I think it is giving you 187, 200. So, if you apply 78% on 290, you will probably get one of the other answers, because 50 is explained, only 240 will be having that tax. XYZ Limited is a foreign institutional investor, has total income comprising of short-term capital gain on sale of listed preference. Once again, be careful, preference share, and interest income in 194 LD, 15 lakh. LD means SQFI. So, this interest SQFI will be taxable at 5%. This, if it was equity, STT paid would have been 15, but non-STT, non-equity will go in 30. So, tax over year will be 30% and 5%. Compute the tax liability. 50 into 30% is 15 lakh rupees, and 15 lakh into 5% is I think 75. So, 15 lakh 75. Sir, how 15 lakh? 50 lakh into 30% and this into 5%. Sir, but that is the option, so select. When you add 4% HEC, then you get your correct answer of 1638. So, if you don't add HEC, you will get this. Supposingly, you apply 15% on this by assuming 111. So, I think you will get what? You will get maybe this as your answer, but all this is wrong. This will go in 30%, this will go in 5% plus HEC. Mr. Ranveer, a non-resident, earned interest income of 620 during 2021 on bonds issued by Tilt Limited, an Indian company notified under a scheme by central government, which were purchased by him in convertible foreign currency. So, we know that notified bonds 10% plus 4% HEC, 10.4%. X, a non-resident, is due to receive 5 lakh in March 21 from a notified infrastructure debt fund. Whenever a notified infrastructure debt fund is paying interest to non-resident, what is the rate of tax from infrastructure debt fund? 5%. And he incurred expenditure. Special rate expenditure irrelevant for earning such income. Assuming that X is a resident of NJA, determine the income tax payable and the TDS. Whenever we are making payment to anybody in NJA, the TDS has to be minimum 30%. NJ, whatever be your tax rate, tax may be 5, but TDS will be 30. So rate of tax will be 5% on 5 lakh. That's 25,000 plus HEC will make it 26. So if you choose this, it will be wrong. Anyways, TDS is 30 and the only place where it is 30 is this. So 5% plus HEC. 5% on this, no deduction of expense. 5% plus HEC is 26,000, and because you are in NJ, TDS will be higher, but rate of tax will be lower. And question number 48, interest income earned by non-resident during the previous year 2021 on bonds issued by ABC Limited, an Indian company notified under the scheme by the central government, which were purchased by him in convertible foreign currency, once again will be taxable at a rate of 10%. So same. That was your chapter, special rates of tax. Last few questions are all new questions, I think from your I think question 35 or 36 was maybe the last question in the last book. So we have about 12-13 questions new in this chapter. So there are a lot of questions which are same as the last year book. As we are aware, 1500 questions are same, 150 are new. But in those same questions also, if there is an amendment, the answer has changed. So it is better that you watch all the lectures. Okay, let's go ahead. I know I have crossed 1 hour, but I want to keep the duration of the first couple of lectures a little long. I am not in Mumbai for the next few days and I am not available for recording. I am going for a batch in Andhra Pradesh, Guntur, first time. So wish me good luck, and let's see how many people we meet. It's only a small revisionary batch, some questions etc. I will be doing, revision amendments I will be covering, and we will be preparing from exam point of view. So that is the reason I want to cover a little more in the initial episodes. So we will go ahead, at least buyback tax and SEZ I will be finishing. First of all, the name only has changed. Last year this chapter was DDT, IDT, BBT. DDT, IDT abolished, which is why huge number of questions have been removed and new have been added. So let's see what do we have. Question 1. M Private Limited, an unlisted company, bought back shares from shareholders. What will be the tax treatment? Capital gain for shareholder? No. Deemed dividend? No. Company will have to pay buyback tax. In fact, now we know whether listed or unlisted, both companies have to pay buyback tax. On what amount? 20% plus 12% compulsory surcharge plus 4% HEC. On what amount? On the capital gain of the shareholder. So we know the buyback price, subtract the acquisition price of the shareholder, depending upon whether it was issued as ESOP or bonus or right, whatever is the acquisition price as per capital gain, find out the capital gain of shareholder and apply the tax rate. When unlisted company buys back its share, it is required to pay tax on distributed income, which is consideration paid minus amount received. Now, where the shares were received as ESOP, what will be the where the shares were received as ESOP, then the amount received for the purpose of issue of share, that is the cost price in case of ESOP. So basically this is like a question on what is cost of acquisition for the shareholder, because selling price will be buyback price, cost of acquisition will be the fair market value on the date, fair market ESOP, no, fair market value, because to that amount, to that extent, we have already taken tax from the shareholder by calling it a perquisite. So that fair market value is going to be your cost price of shareholder. Mr. Bhavesh, shareholder who holds 12% in ABC Private Limited, which is not listed on stock exchange, received consideration of 50,000. So that's the buyback price, which was acquired on this date, 26 July 2012 for 30,000. What is the tax treatment of 50,000 in the hands of Bhavesh? Cost inflation index is given, irrelevant, because in case of buyback, company pays tax, there is no indexation. If you know the concept of buyback, on 20,000, which is profit of Mr. Bhavesh, the shareholder, the company will pay 20% buyback tax, compulsory surcharge 12% under all circumstances, 4% HEC, and for the shareholder, it is going to be exempt. When unlisted company buys back its share, it is required to pay tax on distributed income, which is consideration paid minus the amount received. Now, where the shares were issued as bonus shares, then what will be taken as the issue price or the cost price? Bonus share, then the cost price will be 0. When unlisted company buys back its shares, it is required to pay tax on distributed income, which is consideration paid minus amount received for issue of shares, where it has been taken in conversion of preference share. That means I acquire preference share by paying actual cost and convert into equity shares. That means my cost of preference share has become my cost of equity share, and accordingly the amount for preference share will become the cost of acquisition. Rate of income tax payable by a securitization trust. Some of the students ask me, sir, securitization trust, what is it? Sir, it is nothing but same as business trust, investment fund, etc. But when we do chapters like business trust, investment fund, we do the tax treatment in detail. for the simple reason that certain incomes are taxable for the unit holder, certain income are taxable for the business trust. If we talk about investment fund, PGBP is taxable for the fund, everything else is taxable for the unit holder. Why is this securitization trust irrelevant, sir? Because as per present structure, securitization trust is basically only acting as an intermediary. It will invest on your behalf in the market and it will not pay tax on anything. Everything will be taxable for the unit holder. So basically unit holder will invest in the securitization trust. They will invest further in the market. Income will come here, but nothing will be taxable here. Everything will be taxable for the unit holder. Everything will be taxable. You have to assume that it is not existing only. Everything will be taxable for the unit holder, and thus when the securitization trust is making payment. So when here they are getting income, there will be no TDS because it is fully exempt. But when they are distributing, there is going to be TDS. If the payee is individual HUF, then there will be 25% TDS. And if the payee is other than individual HUF, then there will be 30% TDS. Only unit holder has to pay tax, and TDS will be dependent upon individual HUF or other, 25 and 30 respectively. In any case, if it is non-resident, it has to be actual tax. So, rate of income tax payable by securitization trust as per the provision discussed, trust will not have to pay. Then who will pay tax? The tax has to be paid by the investor. Securitization trust and interest income from A Limited of 2 crore. Securitization trust distributed 10 lakh to one of its investors. In the given scenario, who will deduct TDS? Right now I told you, company will not deduct because trust does not have to pay tax. But trust will deduct, and if the payee is individual, then the TDS is going to be, payee is individual, then 10%. Individual HUF, 25%. Individual HUF 25, other than individual HUF 30. Rate of TDS to be deducted by securitization trust on income distributed to investor, which is a firm. In case of firm, it is going to be 30. So when you distribute to individual HUF, 25. When you distribute to other than individual HUF, 30. Lima Limited, a domestic company, purchases its own unlisted shares on 13th August. So that's a case of buyback. Consideration was 23 lakh, which was paid on the same day. Amount received by the company for the issue of shares as properly calculated is 17 lakh. What is going to be the tax payable? Can I say very simple question? 23 minus 17 is the profit. 6 lakh. What is the tax payable? 20% will be basic. 20% is going to be your basic. But here it will be compulsory surcharge of 12% always attracted irrespective of amount in buyback tax, and then 4% HEC. So if we calculate 6 lakh into that rate, 139,776, which is available for us as option C. Surcharge on buyback tax will be, if it is exceeding 1 crore, distribution more than 1 crore, always 12%. What is the rate of surcharge? Already discussed and decided, 12%. Dividend received from a non-domestic company shall be taxable for. Non-domestic company, no DDT. So taxable for both resident and non-resident. Disaster, gadeda, idiot, nonsense. Residence and source. Non-resident only if source is in India. Then non-resident will obviously not pay tax on foreign income. Non-domestic only resident. Domestic, both will pay. Why both, sir? Because no DDT. Earlier company was paying, so shareholder was not paying. But now both will pay. Dividend received from non-domestic company shall be taxable up to 10 lakh or exempt, up to 10 lakh or fully exempt or fully taxable both for resident, non-resident. No, fully taxable only for resident. X acquired 1000 shares of ABC Limited for 10 of rupees 10 at a premium of 60. Open your eyes. Purchase price is not 50, premium is 50, and therefore total purchase price, face value plus premium, purchased for 60. Company under a scheme of buyback purchased 500. So he purchased 1000, but buyback was only 500 at a buyback price of 70. Calculate the tax liability. Listen, buyback price is 70 minus purchase price is 60, not 50. First mistake possible. Into not all the shares, buyback is only of 500 shares, and this is the gain, and on this gain you have to apply 20% plus 12% plus 4%, and when you apply all this you will get 1165 as your answer. What are my wrong options, sir? Sir, if I take 50 over here, because you have not observed, the issue price is not 50, the premium is 50, so total is 60. If I take 50, what answer I get? That is one of the answers. If I take all 1000 shares, What answer I get? That is one of the wrong answers. And if I remove surcharge because it is less than 1 crore, then what answer I get? And this is how I have computed my wrong options. Obviously, students who have studied the full subject from me know that this is also one of the questions that we do in class itself. A Limited, an Indian company, bought back its listed shares from its shareholders, and B Limited, an Indian company, bought back its unlisted shares from its shareholders in the month of March 21. What are the tax consequences of such buyback in the hands of A Limited, B Limited and the shareholders? See, till couple of years ago, listed, unlisted made a difference. Now things are really very easy. Very easy. Sir, why sir? Sir, because both companies have to pay buyback tax and both shareholders, it is going to be exempt. So additional income tax of 23.296 on income leviable in the hands of A Limited and B Limited and income arising to shareholders is exempt. I think option A is only correct, but let's see because it's a big option. Income arising to shareholders is taxable in their individual head. No, company will pay buyback tax, shareholder will get 1034. Additional is leviable in the hands of A Limited and B Limited shareholder, wrong. Leviable and B Limited, A Limited, wrong. Both companies will pay buyback tax and shareholder will get exemption. XYZ Limited domestic company purchases its own listed shares on 2011-20. Consideration for buyback is 24. The amount received by the company 2 years ago for issue was 13. So we clearly have the gain amount 11 lakh 24 minus 13. Compute the additional income tax payable and compute interest if any payable if tax is paid to the credit of the government on 3rd December. When did the buyback take place? 20th November. And we paid the buyback tax on 3rd December. Have we paid within 14 days? If you pay within 14 days, no interest. If you pay late than 1% per month or part, that means this option is definitely wrong because this option has given interest amount. There will be no interest because paid within 14 days. Now all we are required to do is find out the amount of buyback tax. We know this 20% compulsory surcharge. We are at the near completion of the chapter and 4%. How much do we get? 11 lakh into 20% plus 12% plus 4%, 256 and interest is 0. So you can get this as your answer, but this will be wrong because there is going to be no interest. There is no delay within 14 days. Supposingly, instead of paying on 3rd December, they pay on 6th, 7th, 5th December, which is after 14 days. Then 1 month interest will come and this will become the correct answer. Are we clear? Excellent. Let's just do one more. Chapter number 7, very small chapter, that is why. Unit established in SEZ are eligible for, actually it's a deduction. Exemption is an incorrect word, so you can replace it with deduction. Under section 10AA of dash profits for first 5 years and dash profits for further 5 years. We know that first 500 and then next 550. Last year to commence business was what? Commencement previous year 5-6 to previous year 19-20. Previous year 5-6, so assessment year 6-7. To avail benefit, the business should commence last, they are asking, my bad, I am really sorry. They are asking last year, not the first year. Commence from 5-6 up to 19-20. So last year to commence was previous year 19-20. Your business should have started. The first year was 5-6 and the last year was 19-20. See, imagine, one thing I did not pay attention. They are asking last year to commence. If it is the first year, business should commence on or after, then it will be this option. Last year was 19-20. One word last, I did not read carefully and I made the mistake. Understood how you can go wrong in the easiest possible MCQs in the world. I did not do it purposely, just to check whether you are paying attention. It was a genuine mistake on my part, and indirectly we got to learn something, that one silly mistake can cost us an easiest question, very, probably easiest thing on the planet. So start latest by this and within this period, means you should start up to previous year 19-20, between 5-6 to 19-20. To avail benefit under section 10AA, condition to be satisfied will be, you need report of CA on or before 44 AB due date. Now not the 139.1 but the 44 AB due date. ROI has to be on or before time under 139.1 and maximum 20% second hand plant and machinery. That is nothing but all of the above. So that was our chapter. As he said, some more important chapters coming up in the near future. So stay tuned, stay connected. Thank you for watching episode number 2. I am with you. Oh wow. Thank you for watching episode 2. I am with you. Next time I will say thank you for watching 3. After results we will party. Wow, I become a poet. Thank you very much. See you in the next episode. Love you. Bye bye. Take care.